How's it going?
3, 2, 1, and we're live. What's up, guys? This is Finn. A friend of mine the other day said that I should talk about movies, being that I'm the quote guy or the quotable guy. I'm always talking about movies. I've been around it my whole life. My earliest recollection that really stays with me is probably being about 8 years old and watching Alien on like a Friday night in the living room at my house. And I remember my mom being on the phone talking to somebody, and she said, I don't know if I should be worried about the fact that my son is sitting in the dark watching Alien by himself. But movies have always been really important to me, something that I love. And the guest I have tonight, my friend Robert Russo, has taken that step and is in the process of actually writing and producing his own film. We'll get to that. This is Finn as a WBJF production. The views and opinions expressed on this show do not represent any other person or organization and are solely those of the participants. With that out of the way, let me bring my buddy in. All right, so welcome. Did I say that right? So you're in a production status right now. You're not totally done.
Right.
The movie's called The Defender. Tell us about it.
Okay, so I have been trying for a couple of years to pitch movie scripts. These are feature-length movie scripts. Their budgets are anywhere from $1 million to $30 million, you know. And
Nice.
If you're a nobody, which I am at this point, and it's very difficult, you know, living in Texas to network with big time people. And it's kind of like the bigger the budget, the more difficult your barrier to entry is, right? Because it's like you have a product. That's what your script is. It's a product. It's an idea. And someone has to be willing to sign a check for that much money, right? So for you to break into the movies or the industry or Hollywood or whatever you want to call it, if you're relying on someone else to sign that check, to take a leap of faith on you, it can be extremely difficult. So
Yes.
for a few years, I was trying to do that with some hope, I should say, where people, you know, producers would read something and say, "Oh, that's amazing. Can't film it. Don't have the money." So I thought to myself, okay, this isn't working. Kind of the common perception among new writers is, I just need to win a screenwriting contest. To give an example, the Austin Film Festival screenwriting contest, I went there, I think it was 2 years ago. I think they had 13,000 submissions.
Wow.
And I met the person who won first place, and I spoke with them, kind of became friends for a bit. And he told me, you know, I've won this extremely prestigious contest. I've sold a couple of scripts that have been made into feature films. I still can't get an agent. I still can't get a manager. So I'm like, okay, even if you win the contest, nothing is guaranteed for you. And then to think that you are going to win out against thousands of other people, it made me realize, like, the goal is not to be a contest winner. The goal is to make movies or TV shows or comic books. The goal is to get in business creating things. That's what we as creators want to do, is share our vision of whatever it is we've created. So I thought it's a lot easier to get a small ball rolling than a big one. So I created, specifically for the purposes of shooting in limited locations, limited actors, low budget, short film, just to get a concept out there. So what The Defender is about a young man who is partaking in a MAPS study where he has a psychiatric condition called DID, dissociative identity disorder, which is more commonly known or previously known as multiple personality disorder.
Right.
He takes psychedelic drugs in the opening scene, and one of his alternate personalities comes out. And you basically get to learn that he has many personalities. The core personality, or one of his main personalities that's buried, is called the Defender. And so if you're not familiar with DID, It occurs in children when they're very young who have suffered extreme repeated abuse.
Right.
It's a protective mechanism that the human mind has, where in order to shield this innocent child from really terrible situations and extreme trauma, it creates other personalities, other minds, other identities to cope with the pain and suffering. Because you will only, or I should say, your identity arises out of the need for survival. So we are not so much our identity that we think we are. We are the person experiencing it. We are the consciousness experiencing this life, this persona we've generated out of necessity of survival. So anyway, after this first experience, this character is crippled with intense psychological issues, anxiety, depression, all consuming fear, all these problems. He's not quite sure how to break out of it and live free and be happy.
Right.
And he asked the psychiatrist after the first experience, he says, the psychiatrist explains to him, you have many layers to you. And the one that's at the core, the defender, he possesses all the courage and confidence and fearlessness that you want to have. But in order for you to gain that, you would have to integrate with him in a psychedelic experience. And to integrate with him would mean you will be exposed to all the horrible pain and suffering that he took on your behalf to protect you. So he basically has this decision to make. Do I want to go into the abyss of my soul? Who knows what's in there? And become a full person and experience life the way I want to? Or should I just leave it alone? So he does another experience, and he relives his repressed trauma, which is essentially his mother was a drug addict, and she used him as a means to get drugs, and people did things to him that were horrible. So he has to relive that, and yeah, it's really horrible. And he gets to meet the defender in his vision, his psychedelic vision. And the defender is actually his best friend who's been there throughout the movie, trying to coach him to be happy and be better and stay away. Don't do the psychedelics, stay away from it. So it's really a story about the beauty of the human experience, in that this tiny little child, this stuff is real. This really happens to people.
Sure.
This little toddler faced with horrific abuse that no adult could deal with this either, generated a fearless, incredible personality, the defender, to deal with it. So it really it kind of boggles the mind that this is possible, but this is what the human spirit is capable of. We'll do anything required to protect you in a way that you will survive. And whether or not you survive and you're miserable with depression and anxiety, you made it. And so it's a look at what makes us who we are, how our identity forms. And it's kind of strange to think that this can happen with a child, where somehow the unconscious mind just poof can create an entirely new person that's absolutely fearless, loving, will do anything required, face any pain for any amount of time alone to protect you. But that defender is really just you. And so in his vision, when the defender is comforting him, it's like he's not being comforted by someone else. He's being comforted by himself. And so for me, I thought the defender would open the door for a feature-length version of it, because I do think it's a very touching and emotional movie. And as far as producing it, I had a very limited budget, and I found someone on a screenwriting / movie website, a guy up in Dallas named Michael, and he said, "Man, I love the script. Let's do it." He was very optimistic. We have gone a bit over budget, But I will say that the quality of everything so far has just been unbelievable. Michael Dougherty is his name. He's a director in Dallas. His dedication to the project has been, I really couldn't ask for any more. I'm getting way more than I'm paying for. The cast, everyone worked for free just because of the strength of the script and the story. We had a bar that opened and remained open for us until 3 or 4 in the morning so that we could film a key scene. We had a bunch of extras show up for free. Just, people were troopers all night long, just, shooting scenes. And then we even had a band that came out and they wrote original songs for the script. So the background songs go along with what's happening with the character.
Cool.
So I was just, this is the first time in my life where, as someone who's always wanted to create things, was like, for years and years in the back of my mind, just, man, I could write a great story, or I could do something good. And then you kind of get stuck in the 9 to 5 and you're like, it kind of eats away at you because you can be doing more, right? There's more to you. There's stories you want to tell, or at least emotions or ideas that you feel need to be shared with people to open eyes or to make the world a better place, have more empathy for each other. And when I was there, this is the first time I met the cast and crew, and everyone was shaking my hand and telling me like, man, what an amazing script. Loved it. It was like 8 pages. It was very short. And I just felt really proud. I was like, man, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be creating.
Yes.
This is where I belong. And I just felt, I don't know, it's weird. I'm 36 now. I'm about to be 37 real soon. I was like, man, I really should have just fucking jumped right into it a long time ago.
Right.
I mean, I used to write, to give a funny story. In the 2nd grade, you were talking earlier about watching Alien. And man, I was thinking, oh, I remember that. I remember at least I remember Aliens, the sequel. And I remember when the aliens are punching through the doors and stuff. And I was in the living room with my dad and we were watching it on TV and I was freaking terrified. And my dad used to say, Robert, it's just special effects. They're just men in rubber duck suits. And I was like, it looked pretty scary to me as a little boy,
See, I was more fascinated. The thing that freaks me out to this day when I really think about it was, movies like Halloween, The Thing. I was real big into John Carpenter, his version of The Fog. These were movies that were, let's be honest, in his mind, designed to terrify people in a fun way. I was more fascinated.
Like The Thing, like where did it come from?
Yeah, it was just one of those things that I was impressed by, and I thought, wow, this is really cool. Somebody did this. You talk about like the creative side of it, and I have to say, I've known you for a long time. I've known you for almost 10 years.
Right, it's been a while.
And honestly, one of the reasons I wanted you to come on to kind of share your story is you are without a doubt one of the most passionate people that I know, right? You believe whatever the subject matter might be, whatever we're discussing, if and when you believe in something, you go places. You have that daring personality, and what I'm doing here is kind of the same thing, man. I'm a little bit older than you, not terribly older. I'm 43, but I reached a point where I wanted to do something candid in the world. I wanted to share ideas or share what I was doing, or maybe my opinion or my perspective on certain things. I don't think I'm very good at, for example, writing stories or producing fictional type things. I'm just not good at it, man. I really don't think that's my specialty, but I really enjoy talking to interesting people and sharing with the world, whoever might care, what I think, what's going on, and kind of pay my 2 cents. But you really are. I've known you a while, and you are very passionate, and you talk about, the economics of it, right? Like you've got a lot of the logistics down, and you're the type of personality, bro. You will find a way. You find a way to make things happen. To people that don't know you, I will just say that. You're a very positive person. I've really enjoyed our friendship, and I admire what you can do, because you don't just talk about stuff, you actually go out and make it happen. Getting back to the economics, I understand. There is a business side to this. When I did my little disclaimer at the beginning of the video, that's very real. I have a limited liability company, and one partner, one guy who has written checks for me to do this or to do that. I mean, he's funding it for a percentage, and it is a business. Talk about that a little bit, but I really like what you were saying, because I think a lot of people who are creative get caught up in the philosophy and mentality of I want to make money, as opposed to you who has a creative urge that you want to share with the world, right? I think that's really a problem, especially in Hollywood and in big budget films. And we see it. We see how terrible and awful new movies are. It's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about when we get a chance. But yeah, I have no interest in the next DC movie. I have no interest in the next Marvel movie. I want to see something new that blows my mind or gets me thinking or takes me to a dark place. Those are the types of movies I like. If you're doing it solely because, the studio is pressuring us, man, we got to crank this out as quick as possible because we have to make this much money by this day. Everything we're doing has a very limited lifespan if it's solely about the money. I would rather produce something on my own terms, on my own time, and on my own schedule, so I know it's what I want. And I think you are really good at that. I think you've got it kind of figured out, and you're not just doing it for the money part of it, but you do understand that. And talk about that a little bit. Talk about the cost to make a film versus the reward and that type of thing.
Boy, if I had a lot more films under my belt, I'd be able to speak with more authority. From what I have seen so far, a lot of these people that I have gotten to talk to online or at film festivals or whatever that are producers or managers or whatnot, just imagine if you had a budget of you have $100 million. Like, okay, I can make movies and sign this money away and make whatever we want. They're just like a regular business. They're extremely risk averse.
Right.
They don't want to piss anyone off. They don't want to do anything that's going to rock the boat. They literally have algorithms, formulas. They have when you're writing a script, they'll say, well, you really need to follow these beats to the story. Granted, it can help with keeping your story structure in a way that is digestible to a person to watch your film and get a story out of it. But at the same time, it limits you in kind of the create. Well, it's you need to know the rules so you can break them. But then when you get to the point where you're all right, it's a Marvel movie. In the first 15 minutes, we're going to have 20 explosions, 5 laughs. And then by the middle of the movie, we're going to have 30 more explosions and someone's going to die. It's such a formula, and the characters are so, I don't know, man. Some movies are just for just pure entertainment, pure action, whatever. I think they're just trying to play it safe, and that's why you see so many things like Marvel movies and 20 Batman movies and a ton of
remakes. Every time I turn around, they're rebooting something, and I think, man, what a tragedy.
It's just because it's safe, and that's kind of the issue. Is I think the bigger you get and the more money is involved, it's just all about not losing your money,
right?
And so. I guess I can't blame it for going the way it is. That's people don't want to lose the big wad of cash they've got at the studio. So they go with what's safe.
And I'm not saying there aren't, big budget, movies these days that occasionally come along and they entertain me, and they're movies I gravitate towards. That does happen, but I feel like it's very rare. It's very rare.
It's maximum audience, get as many butts in the seat as possible. That's pretty much what the Avengers and Marvel movies are. Get the maximum amount of people in there, sell the maximum amount of toys and costumes for Halloween. And, it's business. And you really have to look elsewhere. I guess it's a shame because I grew up on John McTiernan movies like Predator, unbelievable movie, right? What else? Highlander, the Terminator movie, the first couple of Terminator movies. Like, there used to be real artists that were pushing the envelope, and now it's like, well, we can just ride on the next Spider-Man movie and make another $1 billion. Why push why risk losing the money? Which is understandable in a way, but kind of repetitive and boring. And it only, I wish people were more demanding with their entertainment. I rarely go to see a movie anymore because there's just hardly anything worth watching anymore. It's like, oh, another Spider-Man movie.
Yes.
Who cares?
And like I said, do you agree or disagree that the people with the money who are backing those productions are doing what I was talking about? It's kind of like, come on, we got to crank this out. We got to get this done because it has a very limited lifespan. People probably won't be talking about it in 20 years or 30 years. But when you make something really good,
right,
when you do something forever that sticks forever, there it is. I kind of think about it. I know you're not terribly into music, definitely not as much as I'm into music, but I feel the same way about that industry. I think it's sad because the true artists, the people that are doing it out of passion and they're trying to express themselves, they're trying to deliver a message, have been kind of lost. Now it's who can get the most votes on this show, who can sing someone else's song better, and the art form is kind of falling to the wayside. And you relate that to movies, and I have no doubt you will have success because, again, I think you're a passionate person. Doesn't happen overnight. We know that. But I think if there was an example of somebody who said, I want to do this, and here are the reasons I want to do it, and were the right reasons, you really are inspirational. And I don't say that just because, we're friends outside of here and I know you. You're going to be very successful. And I'm always interested, for the people that don't know, you're the kind of guy that would call me on like a Tuesday night at like 10 o'clock at night and go, hey man, I got this really crazy idea. I think this would make a good story. And part of me really is there rooting for you. And part of me is really there going, how do I get involved with that? Because again, I don't see myself as an artist in that way. I just like to share my thoughts and opinions. And occasionally somebody comes along who actually cares. Somebody comes along and says, yeah, that's a good point, or that's a really good question. And we'll go and in turn share that. So
I think a big thing too is, what is the spirit behind what people do? And I think a lot of people nowadays, the spirit is, I want money. And that's great to make money. The Bible says, I think it's the love of money is the root of all evil. I would be happy to have a lot of money, but money doesn't truly bring you happiness. And if your entire goal of creating film or music or whatever it is maximum money, I think this is society as a whole today. It's money, 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 social media, popularity, likes, women, cars, status,
Right.
If that's what you have told yourself, that's how I'm going to get happy, is more money. you're now a slave to it. The story Defender and other stories I've written, they're all stories about the beauty of life, the struggle, the disconnect that keeps us, whether it be an internal disconnection or an external one that keeps us from feeling peace and love and happiness. And I sincerely want my stories to make people love their lives more and appreciate the beauty of their life more. And I think anyone that watched 10 minutes of The Defender would get so much more than going to watch another Avengers movie that was, $1 billion movie, because it would really touch you and make you appreciate your life and have more empathy for other people. It's like, maybe we can have a business model of inspiring people instead of just entertaining them. I mean, you can do both, right? But I can't find anything to connect with Spider-Man or Iron Man or like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, these are, they're like, I almost feel like it's a huge distraction. Like, oh yeah, here's a hero for you to believe in. No, man, right. You're a hero. You're real. You don't have superpowers. You're struggling day in and day out. One of my first scripts I ever wrote was Roughneck, which is about, you remember when I went to go work in the oil field, I left a job that was not physical at all. And I went to the most extremely physical job you can pretty much get that I'm aware of. Maybe there's something else. Because I felt so ashamed that I wasn't making more money in life. I was like, man, I'm a loser. I'm not making a lot of money. And that negative emotion propelled me into this job that nearly killed me. I nearly got killed doing it. And I put myself through an unbelievable amount of physical, emotional trauma that it took years to get over it. Injuries. I had CPTSD, like part of it came from the job, which, man, for people that haven't had it, it's horrific. It's horrible. And so that's where I'm coming from, is like, hey, that doesn't have to be what we focus on, making money and being motivated by wealth or the perception that you have to be rich to be happy.
I think it comes along. I think it does. I think you could argue that success is one of those things that's going to be different to everybody. Success to this person might be wealth financially. Success to this person might be getting out of whatever it is they're living with or in and getting into something better, whether it be the neighborhood, the community they're in, whatever. I think that's a conversation that isn't happening, right? Where people are saying, hey, what does success mean to me? Most people think automatically money. And I know plenty of people with money, bro. Plenty of people that are some of the most.
Let's get them to fund a movie.
Well, and it's I have money, but they don't go home to a family. They don't know what it's like to have, a 3-year-old grab their leg when they walk in the house and call them daddy. They don't know what those types of happiness really are, that they exist, because to them it's just, I've got money in my bank account. If I wanted to right now, I could go wherever. You could also argue that money does equal security. I think it was, the Wolf of Wall Street, where, I don't remember the exact quote, but he says, money buys you better food. Money buys you better clothes, better cars. If you want nicer things, and I have to be honest, like yourself, I like nice stuff. I'm the kind of guy that would spend money on one nice thing than kind of go cheap on a bunch of crappy things. There's some truths to that. And you want to be able to take care of your family. You want to be able to take care of yourself, do things that you want to do. And guess what? Money provides a way to do a lot of that, but it sure doesn't mean you're happy just because you have all those things.
Also, I think that I guess the point of where it becomes uh, negative for you is when it's like, you're right. All those things you said are right. I want to have a big family one day, and it's going to cost money to provide for them. That's not a bad thing to have more money to do that with, to guarantee my family security in the future. It gets to a point where people, it consumes them, making more money, making compromises in their character, making, putting money before family or friends or things like that. I don't keep track of how much money I give to people who need it. If they need it, I give it to them. I don't expect it back. If my friend needs money, I give it to him. There's people that don't do that. I mean, because the moment you start putting your heart into it, like, I'm not going to be happy unless I get this money back. Well, then don't give it away, man. I just feel like we've been conditioned so much in society to forget to do. Well, all these things are distractions, like the constant social media, the constant shit on your phone, movies, car advertisements. You can't go 5 minutes without getting distracted by, hey, you need this. Hey, you should get that. Hey, do this. It's like maybe not literally. It's like the devil is on your shoulder. Like, your life needs this new car. This woman you're with isn't beautiful enough. You don't have enough money. It's just like, dude, stop. Turn it off.
As you know, I'm involved with a lot of charity, and you're right. You're absolutely right. If you can let it go, if you can see how fortunate you are and how much you can help somebody else just a little bit collectively, as a group, as an organization, and you can do something for someone else, that's one of the most selfless acts that we can do. And I'm the same as you, man. When somebody asks to borrow money, I don't look at it as a loan. Here's some money. If you're in dire need of something, don't worry about paying it back. If you choose to pay it back, that's great. But those times have come in my life where you're asked to give, because at the end of the day, you're doing just fine. And I think there's a disconnect in reflecting on just that. People reflecting on, hey, I'd like to have a nicer whatever. Well, you have a nice whatever right now. You're focused on that better, bigger, faster, whatever. And yeah, that's true. And society really has been infiltrated by these ideas constantly for a long time. We were talking a little bit about, the classic films and the modern films. I got to be honest with you. Occasionally something comes along and I really like it. I guess the best example I can give is the Quiet Place movies. I don't have a Jamie or someone to look stuff up for me as we're doing this, but I don't recall when the first A Quiet Place came out with Emily Blunt. I absolutely loved that movie.
Let me tell you a funny thing about that.
So the sequel wasn't bad. The sequel was not bad. People really bashed it, and it wasn't. I guess I built it up in my mind to be something it turned out not to be. But let's be honest, it was a really cool movie, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, the first one, I remember. So this is our culture nowadays. You could hear a pin drop in that theater, right, the whole time, and then just as the movie is at its most dramatic, climactic moment, this guy, like two teenagers, boy and girl, came up, and they sit down near me. And they get on their phone, start clicking on stuff.
Of course.
And I'm like, you have ruined my life. No, not that bad. But I was like, these kids, come on, man. Like, can't you wait until the end of the movie? And because I guess to say it clearly, will fly into a rage if I really do get into it with someone. Or I feel like I'm going to. I just don't confront people about anything. But I really want to be like, man, what is your effing problem, dude? Just get that phone out of here, you know? But yeah, it was an incredible movie. And it just goes to show that you can still do things that kind of break the mold and impress the hell out of audiences and make a ton of money.
M. Night Shyamalan, yes or no? Is M. Night Shyamalan movies, the last one he did was Old?
I didn't see it. I remember seeing like The Lady in the Water or something like that. There've just been a couple of his movies that were just terrible. I feel like his best is kind of in the past. Like I love Signs. I remember watching Signs on my I had my day pass here in San Antonio when I went to basic training. I went and saw that movie with a friend. Amazing movie. But again, that's where the risk comes in, right? It's like M. Night Shyamalan can give you a Signs or a Sixth Sense or whatever. But then on the other hand, sometimes he comes out with these duds that are just terrible, like The Happening. Like that was I guess kind of an interesting movie, but really not that exciting or memorable.
I think with him, yeah, I agree. I think with him, what's kind of funny with my, interests and things like that is I usually have the opposite opinion on his films that most people have that I encounter. For example, I thought Lady in the Water was amazing. I thought it was, out of everything he's done, probably my favorite movie. But every time I talk to somebody about it, they're like, man, how could you? That was terrible. It's all about the Sixth Sense or something. I go, yeah, they were good, but
I didn't think it was a bad movie. I just didn't think it was that great. It was like, I thought Signs was incredible. Like the suspense just kept building and building and building. Lady in the Water, I think it was just this whole fairy tale thing that just, it's like, I know that's not even remotely possible, right? But with Signs, yeah, aliens could come down and do some crazy stuff like that. So I guess I felt like it was more, I could suspend my disbelief a lot more with Signs.
I think with Signs, and the reason I wasn't, if it's one of those things where if it's on somewhere, I'll typically like kind of drop in on it, kind of go, okay, this is cool. Where it loses me is the small touches, like the news broadcast, right? Like the way that they're in the movie, they're watching the news and it's, this is very real. This is happening. There was a point where it just seemed overly cheesy and almost too dramatic. Like this, if this was happening, if aliens were in the sky landing and it was, something you could actually go outside and take pictures of or video of or whatever. I just think the disconnect with the reality of what would actually happen was highly dramatized and it was almost cheesy. So it's weird because, yeah, it's not that I dislike the movie at all. Again, if it's on somewhere, I'll typically watch it. But it wasn't my favorite movie that he did. I really liked The Village. I liked The Village, twists are one of his things. And it had, to me, an amazing twist. It was a refreshing movie to see.
Right.
But same thing. I talk to people about it, and more often, it's people aren't impressed where I am. The last movie he did, me and my fiance went to go see it fairly recently. It was Old. And I have mixed feelings about it. I'm not sure how I feel about it, but there was definitely somewhere he went outside of, his norm. He stepped out of the box, his own box for that movie. And it was kind of refreshing.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I think at a minimum, what you can give him is that he's going to give you something new every time. So whether he hits a home run or strikes out, he's going to give you an experience you haven't seen before. And I would rather go see Old or whatever M. Night Shyamalan movie that I haven't seen than go see another Marvel movie that's going to be the exact same. Oh, there's some interstellar bad guy. He's going to come through the interdimensional portal. The world's in danger. Get the team together. Let's all beat up some aliens. okay, we're the Avengers, hoorah. It's like, I don't care. Is it entertaining to kind of watch just like the CGI spectacle a little bit, but there's zero emotional, to me, a movie, it needs to evoke an emotion for me to be interested, whether
Yes.
it's something like horror or inspirational, or some kind of emotion. It needs to touch me. But yeah, the Avengers movie is just completely flat. I
Now,
just don't care.
yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you, bro. Another guy who gives me hope that I want to talk real quick about is Neil Blomkamp. Okay, Chappie, Elysium, District 9. I think I'm missing something. Some of the big ones, okay? Like I thought Elysium was incredible. I really liked Chappie. Sadly, like we were saying with M. Night, it's sort of the same thing. I tell people I like Chappie and I get shot down. People are like, oh, that was his worst movie. That was terrible. These gangster, type, whatever. District 9. District 9 really blew my mind. The first time I saw it, I was glued to that TV. I thought it was incredible. Visually, it was a lot of fun. The story wise, the story part of it, story wise, was really entertaining. But he gives me hope. I'm really curious to see what Neil Blomkamp comes up with in the next few years, because I guarantee it's going to be something that I'd want to see.
Well, that's a good way to move into this aspect. Is traditional studio and distribution structure, I think, is going to go away, or maybe it'll still be there, but it's going to have a lot of competition. We're entering an era where someone like me can put up The Defender onto some kind of streaming website or service for short films, and I can get paid for every time someone watches it.
Right.
And so I can invest X amount of thousands of dollars into this little film, and then every quarter I'll get a check for, whatever. I'm going to get paid back. Like I've spoken to people. I'll give an example. I talked to a guy on Clubhouse, which is like a talking app where you can talk to people in different rooms, I guess he said he got a divorce from his wife or something like that. I don't know if I'm remembering the story correctly. They sold the house. He had always wanted to make a feature film. So he took his money from that sale of the house. He filmed a movie called 1BR, 1 Bravo Romeo. And it did extremely well on Netflix. Like there was a movie by Jamie Foxx. Can't remember the name of it. It was just out like 6 months ago, where people have like superpowers or something. And it kicked that out of first place. So his low budget feature film was more compelling to watch than this movie that had a pretty much like an A-list actor and was probably tens of millions of dollars. And it had a higher rating as well, I think. And so now all of a sudden, this guy who never made a feature length movie in his life his movie is being seen by millions of people. And now he can go to other producers and say, hey, look, I made this very successful film. Give me money to make another one. And it's with things like cryptocurrency, even, I think there's one called Tron, where you can upload a movie onto the Tron network, I believe. And it will have like all the contract stuff built into it. So if someone watches your movie, everyone involved in the movie, according to how much they're contractually obligated to get paid, gets paid. There goes the movie theaters. There goes the distribution people. Because sure. I will tell you this: if you're trying to become a writer, producer, filmmaker, it's a Shark Tank. Everyone is trying to, okay, I don't want to make it sound worse than it is, but I'll say this: there is a real danger that people will take your idea and tweak it and then make it on their own.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You can't do it. Pretty much can't do a damn thing about it. So you have to copyright your material. You have to register it with the Writers Guild. You have to protect yourself. You have to get non-disclosure agreements signed. And then I've just met, man, people will give an example. I wrote a script about a talking pig. Amazing script, my first one. I went
I
to the
think I
Austin.
read it actually. You sent me
I
a
may have.
copy of that. Yeah.
Let's not talk about the exact details of the concept though.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I remember I went to the Austin Film Festival and I pitched it to a room of other writers and there were producers there. Super stressful, but I was like, I got to do this. I have like public speaking phobia, or I used to have it. I'm like, I got over it, but it's still a little stressful. Um, and for the producers just didn't give a shit. I was like, man, this is an incredible idea. I can't believe they don't want to buy my idea. And for the rest of the festival, other writers were walking up to me and they'd shake my hand. They'd say, "Oh, you're the pig guy, man. That was incredible. I love that." Like people were telling me like it made them cry. And I was like, how is it that these producers just don't give a shit? Because I was there listening to everyone else's pitches and some of them were really good. But I think mine had the most, I don't know, like spirit or like vulnerability, or there's definitely something to it that was really special. But anyway, I'm getting off track here. So when you're trying to get, okay, so I met a local producer who was like, I know someone at a streaming service. They want content and yours like totally fits in. Let's set a meeting. Let's talk about it. So I meet her and like some friend of hers that's kind of an agent or something. And all they did for about an hour and a half was just rip into me about how useless I was as a writer. Maybe not that bad, but like that was the undertone. Like, we don't need you. Anybody can write anything. This is like, who cares? This is not special. You don't have anything great. It's really not worth much. Like you should be happy we're offering you anything. And I'm just like, how did it go from this is an incredible story, let's have a meeting, to yeah, we could give you $500 for it. And, you should be thankful for that. It's like, there are so many opportunistic people, and I'm sure this is everywhere in any business, right? But people are so hungry to like make it that they forget to treat other people like human beings. And you just have to be on guard for, and they're con people, like con artists too. They will tell you everything you want to hear. Lie, 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 lie. Oh yeah, I got a meeting with this person. Doesn't happen. Okay, this is gonna happen. Just send an email here. Nothing happened. Like, what if you ever get into this? If people are promising you so much, they're probably lying to you. I believe that. Like, if someone makes you a promise that they're going to do something, like, okay, give me a contract by this date. If somebody can't put something in writing for you in a timely fashion, they're just full of it. And it's sad because I think people jump into that business and are like, I will do whatever it takes to succeed. And then they start lying to people. And then they start justifying their behavior by, oh, it's just the business. Or, yeah, it's just miserable to deal with that stuff. And I've dealt with it. And,
Well, but here's the thing. You touched on things like social media, YouTube. There's several other platforms. For an independent artist, yes, it's a interesting and phenomenal time where you can kind of self-produce. If you have the time and the means to come up with something and piece it together and make a product, you have these various tools at your disposal. Of course, it would be nice, you write a story and somebody comes up to you and says, I'll give you this much money to help you make it. That's always great in any business. If someone believes in you enough to write you a check and say, hey, I want to be a part of this, right? Mm-hmm. But just like music, I don't remember who said it, but somebody said, I'd rather have the tools at my disposal that exist today than, say, 30 years ago, where I had to deal with the bureaucracy and politics of the record labels. I can just make music, upload it to my website, and people can buy it. And I am the producer. I am the one who's making all this happen, right? So I think to perhaps hungry filmmakers, hungry writers and producers and directors that are trying to break into it, if they have an idea or they have the drive and the heart like yourself. I think it's just a matter of harnessing the right tools at the right time. And maybe sometimes people are looking in the wrong places, for that light. I could be wrong. I've never tried to market, a story, a screenplay, a film. I've never tried to, but I absolutely see what you're saying. And that's unfortunate that the business is that way, but it's also not terribly surprising.
There can be other, I guess, let me explain some, in case anyone out there is like interested in film or creative stuff. It in your mind, at least in my mind, I was like, I guess this is, me being the ever optimistic person that I can beat the odds. I was like, okay, I'm going to go to the film festival. I'm going to meet somebody. And I did. The first night I was there, I had a 1-hour conversation with a Netflix producer. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to do it. I'm going to beat the odds. Well, I sent him some material. He never wrote me back. So it's like, fuck. But
or he had 20 other conversations
right.
with, people like yourself. That's a possibility too, but I certainly wouldn't be demoralized by that. It doesn't mean that your idea is no good. It doesn't mean that you don't have the right attitude or the right drive. It's just trying to get that break sometimes.
But I did learn a good lesson was somebody told me at the festival, they said, it's not, you are a nobody, right? You just show up. You've never done anything before. It's like winning the lottery for some studio to be like, oh yeah, you got an incredible script, Mr. No One, let's give you $1 million for it. Like it does happen, but it's so rare that for you to place your hopes in that, you're wasting your time. Or I'm going to win the screenwriting contest and someone's going to notice me. No, you're probably not. Honest, like just the odds. Remember, 1 out of thousands. Even if you have an incredible screenplay, it's just someone's opinion whether it should win. That's it. And I've had scripts like that where I've submitted them for review or for contest or whatever, and it says, you didn't even make it to the semifinals. But then other people who are fellow screenwriters who have made movies or print comic books or, other creative people that are in the business say, that is an absolutely amazing story. Like you will get somewhere with that. But then some guy who is a gatekeeper at a contest thinks it's average. So it's like, I guess what I learned was you just have to get out there and do it and stop waiting for people to give you permission to do it. Start small, get that little ball rolling. Like my strategy now is one of my scripts is I was told probably would cost 30 million to make. So the odds of me finding someone to do that are next to nothing. But I thought, what is possible is I could do a Kickstarter, raise some money, and print it as a graphic novel or a series of comic books. That's good, right? Like if you consider success as just winning the lottery, brother, you're going to be playing a long time and you ain't going to win. You got to start small and start building and building and building. And that's how it happens, And so it's like, if I get a comic book made out of this and it does really well, then I can do a graphic novel. If the graphic novel does really well, I can hire a novelist, turn it into a book series. If the book series does well, now all of a sudden I have an established history with this intellectual property. And I can say to a producer, hey, I have a successful comic book series, 5-star reviews. I have successful novels, 5-star reviews. Are you interested? Now compare that to, hey, I'm nobody. I just wrote this story. It's a great story. You know how many times he hears that a day? Freaking 100 times a day.
Right.
You set yourself way above everyone else the moment you have a proven product or concept. And it's a lot harder. I would imagine it's harder to steal it once you've already created something. What else? You also come up with your peers, because if you're trying to get into a entrenched Hollywood or something like that, where these people have, and I've heard them, their attitude is, well, I've been here taking shit from producers and directors for 10 years before I got my break. And you have to do the same. You got to get coffees and get screamed at and get bitched at and blah, 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 and get dehumanized before you should even deserve a shot. It's like you're dealing with a person who dealt with a traumatic, like almost like a hazing experience to get where they're at. And they don't want to let you in unless you eat the shit pie that they had to eat too. So it's like the culture, I believe, is changing, but I think you're better off. Where I've seen my success and my connections is there's a bunch of other people out there just like you. They're trying to make it. Novelists, screenwriters, comic book authors, publishers. There's people that are like in your same level and they're slowly rising, right? And so you get in, you make all these connections with people that are like your peer group. And then over time, you're like, hey, dude, what are you working on? Okay, I'll read that for you. I'll give you some notes on it. Hey, can you read my thing? Then all of a sudden he's like, oh, hey, I got a break. I got in over here, man. They're looking for do you have a family script? Do you have do you have a sci-fi action script? I don't, but I could tell them about you. All of a sudden you're getting read now. Like you are establishing your network of peers who will go to bat for you. And what you put out, you're going to get back too. So anytime somebody needs support or like I would say my talents in the creative area are unique concepts and creating story worlds, because how I dealt with my basically depression for most of my life was I would just read a lot of stuff to distract myself. It's like you're alone, you don't have anybody, or life sucks or whatever. Just read. I'll just read so much stuff. So like one of my talents is I can just retain an unbelievable amount of obscure information or stories or whatever. And so if someone says, hey, I got an idea for a story, my brain is just like, oh, here's the time it is. Here's the characters. Here's what the politics are. Here's the goals. Here's the spirit of the characters, their flaws, their journey, their character arc. Like it just pops into my head quite easily. And so if my fellow writers know that, hey, this guy's a good story world builder, like even if you remove the characters that I created out of his story, the story world by itself would be worth exploring more, just like the movie The Thing or Predator or Aliens. Like take Ripley out of Aliens, it would still be an amazing universe to watch other stories happen in. Like I would love to see a movie about the Colonial Marine Corps or where the aliens came from or what happened on LV-426 before Ripley even got there. Like, so the people that you're going to break in with are the people you're friends with already, basically at your level. And as long as you just keep producing and be a good, helpful friend, loyal friend to people, they're going to remember that. And I think that's how you're going to make your big break.
Well, I wanted to end because we're about out of time with this, because I think you've made several good points, and I'm excited to see what happens with you. I hope when your success comes, because it will come, you don't forget about us.
Of course not.
Successful people, I think I heard this on Joe Rogan's podcast, but successful people aren't the ones born into it or that have money or a lifestyle that was just given to them. Good people come out of bad situations, and bad people have come out of good situations. But it appears that the people who really make it, those successful people, they have the same character trait, all of them, whether it's inventing a product, something creative, a podcast, a blog, whatever. That character trait is perseverance. They don't quit. They keep trying and they keep failing. Failing is actually a really good teacher. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've screwed something up. And I think a good person is always going to reflect on what happened to them or what went wrong, make those intelligent corrections so that it doesn't happen again. But I'm serious. I'm really anxious to see where you go. You've got plenty of time, bro. And I know you've got a lot of ideas. There's a lot going on with you. With that said, I'd also like to get together sometime here pretty soon. We both live in the San Antonio area. We should get together. I love looking at your product, like what you're actually working on. You want to wrap it up with what's going on with your filming and what are the estimated times of completion, post-production, stuff like that?
Well, this is the difficult thing with indie film or low budget film is your cast and crew usually have a day job. And so we have a major scene left to film. It's not going to be like that long of a film, probably, or I should say a shoot. It's probably going to take a day, but it's for purposes of the short film, it's a big scene. And it's just kind of scheduling conflicts can push things back weeks. And so I'm hoping that it will be done filming by the end of the month. It's been pushed back quite a few times already. That's just the nature of how it is.
Sure.
You got to roll with it. And yeah, I think probably by the end of the year, I'm being really like safe saying that. I think the end of the year, it's going to be done because then you still have editing. Most of it is edited already because it's been spaced out over such a long period already that what has been filmed already is already edited and like post-production. Or yeah, I think that's what it's called. So it's just a matter of filming one more scene, editing it, color correcting, sound, it's done. And then I'll start entering it into film contests and I'll probably just post it online for people to watch just to get my name out there, you know? But I was going to say, you're right about failure and perseverance. You know, in the oil field, when I started, I didn't know anything, nothing. I didn't know what a pipe wrench was, man. I was so out of place. You know, you're covered in oil, filth, exhausted. It's 110 degrees. People are screaming at you constantly because you don't know anything. It's like, it taught me to be humble. Like, okay, if I just don't quit today, I'm winning. Because the easy thing to do is just give up. It's easy to hit that resistance and quit. And so, you know, like my first script, the idea was fantastic. The execution was very amateur, very bad. And I'd send it in to get reviewed by people and it would just be, you know, and I'm paying people, professional script readers, read this, tell me what you think. And they would just shred it, dude. You know, out of a 5, what would I get? A 1.5, a 2. Because the technical aspects were so bad because I wasn't a practiced screenwriter in that format. And it's like, are you willing to do it? You know, in my heart, I knew that there was a great story there. And so I just kept doing it and kept, okay, I'm going to take this 1.5 star average and I'm going to fix it. And then I'm going to send it back in. Okay. Now it's a 3. Okay. I improved. That's good. It's not where you're at. You don't go to swing and, you know, take a swing and miss and give up. You keep improving. And as long as your trajectory is just slowly going, I would rather take somebody who is just relentlessly improving 1% every day than someone who's going to like go up there and if they make a home run, great. And if they don't, they just quit. As long as you're improving 1% per day, 1% per week, you are just going to be like exponentially improving over time and just never give up. And if you really feel there's something you want to pursue, whatever it is, writing, producing, man, if you really want to do it, just start doing it and just keep getting better at it and keep making connections. And you'll feel so much better because your energy is like, there is something you are called to do in life, whoever you are and whatever it is, we're all called to do something. It may be something very simple. Maybe you're really good at like taking care of animals. I don't know what it is, but there's something that you're awesome at, and just love doing it. Just appreciate each moment. It's just like a viewpoint of love where you're at, be in the moment, wherever it is. Like, it can be really toxic as a writer to think, man, I just really want to break in and get that 1 in a million shot and make money and transform my life. It's like, stop that. Where are you today and this moment? You need to rewrite your story. You need to read another book on screenwriting. You need to make every day be making those little improvements. That if you can't live in the moment, you're missing out on life. I don't want to drag it out, so I guess I'll end on that.
Very well said. Very well said. And I'd like to have you back. I'd like you to think about coming back down the road. It was awesome talking to you. Like I said, we should get together here pretty soon. I want to thank you for coming on and wish you a good night and all the success in the world, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on. I'll be back.
Of course. Thank you.
Take care.
I mean, what a great conversation, right? Here's a guy who is extremely motivated. Here's a guy that I have no doubt, I would wager lots of money that he's going to be all right. He's going to make it happen. And I particularly liked how we talked about perseverance. The people that make it are the ones who keep their eye on the ball. That has been proven time and time again. So whatever you're out there doing, keep doing it. If you get shot down, get back up. Success takes a long time, and sometimes you have to grow that success. When I started This Is Finn, this was just an outlet for me, but a little bit at a time, it's grown. You can help me out by subscribing to my channel. Go over to my Facebook page. Be sure to like it as well. The link to it will be in the description. Thanks for watching. Love you guys. And we'll see you down the road.